Hey there, this is video number 2 in the Adventures of Cheap AI series, so here's my ramble. In the previous video we looked at the big picture and I demoed some of the software I tried. I loaded the software on a 5-year-old Dell desktop running Windows 11 with about 5 gigs of free memory. I did this to see what I could actually do without buying some expensive computer without even knowing how things worked. Fortunately, Unfortunately, this Windows computer died, or fortunately. But fortunately, I had earlier bought a Mac Mini M4 that I was going to move all of my M1 Mini stuff to. So I decided to make the M4 my new AI development and testing computer instead. It has 16 gigs of RAM, so it's not loaded up either, and I think it'll be a great place to start. I installed LM Studio again, but this time on the M4. It's free and it's a great way to dive into AI and models. So in this video, let's take a closer look at it. We'll work our way up along the left side options. First, we have the model selector. These are all free. I use another AI to help me select one for testing. I didn't know exactly what I needed when I started with this on Windows, so I let the AI know what the computer's free memory and disk space was and what I wanted to test. It recommended this one as a good all-around small model, and I'm continuing to use it here. So if you're a beginner, I recommend you also use AI to help you. At the moment, note the GGUF or GGUF, however you pronounce it, suffix here. Next, we can see what models we've downloaded. You can switch between models and chats and also refer to different ones if you're calling LM Studio with an API. And here's how you can use LM Studio with an API. It shows you the URL to use and what the endpoints are. It also shows output here when it's working with the model. Finally, we have the chat section where you can interactively use the model. I've already done several chats so I can point out some things, so let's go through them. Now, no model will have all of the information available in the world. It's always a trade-off between what will be useful and what the model size limit should be. Some models are great with being creative, others are great with code, others with data analysis, and so on. Some, like this model, are good enough for several things. Also, downloaded models do not learn. It's a body of probabilities that were set when the model was created. You can't add to the model. And if you didn't know already, models do not contain text. They do not contain words or phrases or math symbols. What they contain are numbers, period. When a model is going through learning, everything fed into it is converted into integer tokens. And then floating point values are assigned to each token to indicate what probably comes next in the sequence of things. So every time you ask a model questions, like what's George Washington's birthday, the chat is chopping your question up into integer tokens and using the model to determine the most probable answer, every time. For the first chat, I'm using the phrase most models will know. But since this model is small, it does not. In what book does the phrase, "the road goes ever on and on," appear? It gave an answer, but it's wrong. This is called a hallucination, or we'd call it a lie. Since the model uses probabilities, this was the best answer it could come up with at this time. Not the greatest answer, of course, but the best one that it could. You also have to be careful when using AIs. If you didn't know the right answer, you might use this result as a fact. Developers must learn how to guard against lies, and I'll eventually get to this in a future video. At the least, you now know what can happen if you're just using an AI to get help. In the next chat, I provide the fact that this phrase is from the Fellowship of the Ring. The model rambles on about some general information it does know about the trilogy. I follow up by asking where the phrase comes from, and the model now answers correctly, although I didn't know where it got the page 38 thing. The books are printed in different sizes anyway. Now, how did the model know or remember this fact? It's because the chat front end passed it to the model along with my question. Chat front ends will send the entire chat, or sections, to the model as it thinks it needs in order to get a correct response for you. Now let's try a new chat and ask the question again. Here you see another wrong answer because separate chats in LM Studio do not retain information. This chat doesn't know about the previous one, and the model never gets smarter. The process of the model being given previous information in a chat is known as RAG. Let's look at it in the outline. RAG is retrieval augmented generation, or simply a way of breaking up information you provide and passing it to the model. The more RAG information you provide, the more precise your answer can be. As we see in LM Studio, RAG data is only remembered in the chat it was provided to, but you can get plugins for it so the data is available across chats. This RAG data is stored in what's called a vector database. If you remember the gguff suffix I mentioned before, that's the format of the model file. Chat front ends like this code in Llama C++ that uses your RAG data and the model to get your answer. Llama is named that way because Meta's model uses Llama in its name. So when you're researching AI on your own, you'll see a lot of Llama references. Let's go back to the chats. I wrote a wonderful poem named AI is Fun, You Should Get One. I wanted to use a title I knew wasn't used anywhere else. So the first thing I do is ask who wrote this poem, and the model correctly responded that it didn't know. Next, I attached the poem text file. You can see the chat imported it, and it chose the number of tokens. In LM Studio, if it's a small file, it might copy the text directly into the chat JSON it saves. If it's a large file, it will keep a reference to its location on the drive. Then I repeat my question and the model eventually responds with the author. Apparently it doesn't know what a nom de plume is, but it got it right. Then I ask it to find the poem with this line from it, and it got it correct. Finally, I ask for the word count, and we see that it does have the entire poem at its disposal. In a new chat, all knowledge about the poem is, of course, gone. Now for the final chat, I want to go over some very bad hallucinations. I've attached a CSV with information about 10 trees, including their height and maximum age. You can see the file was imported and in an initial comment. I ask which tree is a spruce and it returns the correct information. Then I ask it to provide the average max age and it goes crazy. I try to focus its attention by providing the column name in quotes. It's wrong, but in a sneaky way. Imagine you fed your financial documents to this model and it acted like it knew what it was doing. This is crazy, and again it points out that you must be very careful with giving your trust to AI. Okay, what about the average maximum height? Again, it produces garbage. So, if you've taken anything away from this video today, as a developer, do not assume that you can feed anything to any model and always get good results. Learn how to create prompts that will make your model provide accurate answers. If it doesn't, find a better model. Finally, I want to show a coding example that calls the LM Studio API. I'll go over to the API page where it has the developer log. And here you can see LM Studio receiving and processing the request, and the results are getting returned. Okay, I think that's enough for today. I hope this helps in getting you started with cheap AI on your own computer. Next time we'll continue with a deeper look at anything LLM, where its built-in RAG remembers things between chats. Thanks for watching.